do not really pay attention to it. And privileges, of course, are then they come with a certain habit. I mean, this is easily imagined, or one can easily imagine this through the aristocracy. They had some certain privileges, and with these there were certain habits. So we talked about the 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 behavior and the fashion, the zone of the upper classes, so that they some sort of had all the resources, but as well as well in defining. So privileges has always its expression in reality, and privileges, importantly, they are not always visible, or at least they are not very explicit. I mean, there are this is let's say one easy example is a wealthy man you will not see, or there are rarely wealthy people who are some sort of showy, or in a way tacky, and uh, strut along the streets with expensive clothes. These are mainly poor people who want to show off. However, in general, especially in our age, privileges, they are not visible. I mean, of course, one privileges is visible. This is indeed racial as well as gender. So if you're a man, if you're a woman, this is indeed a privilege, still a privilege. But besides that, these privileges, they are uh, not explicit, not visible, because it is rather through interaction. You know which part someone takes in the social hierarchy, and this is very important. Privilege privileges, they contribute to a social hierarchy, and that's why we have to understand that there is not only one privilege. So because this white privilege everyone is talking about, not at all. There are many privileges, but of course they have to be historically understood, and they are, of course, because of the divinity, because of the historical growth, then the privileges always have some sort of worthiness among them, as some sort of natural. This is what happened in the monarchy. This is what happened with these understandings of divinity, that there would be a God, or that this would be the will of God, that this is the natural order, that um, are people of pure blood. There again comes this purity, this cleansing, which is defining what goes back when Christianity became, in a way, the dominant religion in the Roman Empire. So this purity, this and so on, and this played a crucial role, especially in the aristocracy, because at this point, if you're an aristocrat, you can only marry another aristocrat, or your children are not being considered as pure. This is at least in the Western monarchies the case. You don't find this in the East. In the East, it is rather that the children, they take over the belief and some sort of their father. So in the East, there's still this pater familias, but in general, this is not so so strict as in the West, with this purity and blue blood. I mean, and then another thing, what these definitions, they miss out, but in a way imply. I mean, it is not explicit, but they imply them, and this is that's of course when some people are better off, then this happens to a disadvantage of others. others. This means privileges. That this is something you could say is always exclusion of others, and we have to be aware of one thing, and this is very important, is that privileges, especially in something we detected and talked about in the in what is working wrong within capitalism, and and this is and this means that privileges in a way bar others the entry. Uh, think about all these Amazon or the practice or the business habits and practices of Amazon, that they bar other people from entering the market and so on. But this is as well as with all these giants. So privileges always give in a way are being barred or bar others from entry. This as well as you find in the aristocracy and so on. The aristocracy and those people better off, they would always bar those commoners from entering into the circles of privileges in a way. So are always with the exclusion of others, because it would not work. It would not work because of the reason. What we need to understand is that privileges, they are always granted over resources. This is what these definitions, especially about the historic definition about businesses and so on, that they implied. But one thing is clear that this is privileges are always granted over resources. I mean, privilege is not only just a legal entitlement. No, it has its form either sexually, politically, religiously, or racially. It has always a physical foundation in reality. Think about some neighborhoods which people were only people from a certain ethnicity live. But this is not only in America the case. This is as well as in Vienna the case, despite the fact that Vienna was run by socialists. Nevertheless, there was some sort of a home market where this is in Vienna, this is in German called Gemeindebauwohnungen. These are homes, affordable homes built by the city of Vienna, by the city government of Vienna, and they are indeed very affordable, cheap. Yet foreigners up to 2006 were barred from getting a home, despite the fact that Vienna was never governed by any other party than the Social Democrats, and the only reason why they opened up to foreigners was actually some sort of a token for the election, so that they would get elected. So however, this is not only an issue about in America, but as well as, I mean, we talked about monarchies, and monarchies does not only mean that someone has some sort of an entitlement to call himself sir or lord or whatever. No, this always comes with land, with special privileges. But as well as in Great Britain, you have access to the House of Lords, which is not democratically elected. So this means privileges are always are part of the social hierarchy, and they are inherited because they last longer than one generation. This is the difference to a legal document, if you want. And one important or another important point I want to talk about, this is of course information. We talked a little bit about this. This is about that privileges as well as mean information, who is excluded and who is not. This is especially with Foucault, with knowledge is power, and that common people are some sort of excluded. Everyone or some of you will immediately think of insider trading in businesses, that some people gain a lot of money. Another thing is, which is indeed questionable, is as well as this, that some groups in a way are, this is especially in the business the case, that some groups are big enough that they can control the market, and they then in a way control this with knowledge, through knowledge, and exempt others. But what you or why this point is so important may not be very evident, but it only becomes evident if something happens to you, especially let's say you some sort of seek legal counseling, or you need support in your daily life, or and so on. And privileges can mean or can make the difference whether you get information in order to save you or protect you from fraudulent behavior, or protect you from the state, or whatever. And this can really end very badly. I mean, especially if people, and this happened to me, if people just wanna destroy you or whatever, then privileges can as well as mean, or if you're underprivileged, this can as well as mean that information is withheld from you. But as well as think about that, sometimes you withhold information from people to just have power over them, or you spread deliberately false information. This would be as well as to have power over them. I mean, if you spread false information, I mean, if you do it smartly, and this happened to me as well, where people would deliberately and willingly spread false information, then you can wreak havoc, and as well as you can some sort of isolate someone, and so on. So this is indeed a big issue, as well as you can gain a lot of some supporters with false information, with right information. But another thing, of course, is access to information. I think of access to universities and so on. This is not always the case, so not everyone has access in universities, or has not access to knowledge in general, or if you are being stopped, and so on. And this is indeed very important, and it becomes very important when something happens to you. Then another definition, which I think was very important as well, this is that privileges some sort of can exempt some from obligations. This can be some exempts from others, or frees others from a burden, and then let me rephrase that: some are exempt from a burden, and others then have to bear this burden. Think of the Vietnam War, where African American men were over proportionally more drafted to the war as well. Or think about party cronies and so on. And we talked a little bit about it, about political privileges and so on. But as well as these are privileges where someone can do things without being defamated and so on. Especially this happened to me in the university. I mean, there are some leftist, white atheists who were openly